Okay, so I am going to jump a little bit ahead here because, again, I want you guys actually doing something, physically doing some stuff with me today. As every class moves deeper into the semester, the more I'm hoping to get. Again, it's designed for you guys to actually be more active. So I'd like to take a step again. I'm going to jump a little bit ahead of what I typically would do in this because there is still some question about this whole profiling process. And I sort of want to go through that part. We've also got some of the other issues that are fresh in our minds about our 0 to 255 scale. So there's a couple other things that we can deal with as far as that part goes. One last thing that I would ask here really quickly is, does anybody in this class shoot tether? Tether. It's when you connect your camera to a computer and you shoot straight into your computer. You're going to learn that in this class. So what I need everybody to do, you can do either write this down or you can do a screenshot for it. The software that I'm going to show you guys is Capture One. Capture One does exist on some of the, it exists on the computers that are in the studio, I'm fairly certain. However, it's a very expensive piece of software, but you can download a 30-day demo. So what I would like for you guys to do between now and Wednesday is to download the demo for your computer. It's really pretty straightforward. I'm going to show you their website really quickly. As a matter of fact, I can send you the link to it as well, but it's easy. So if you do a search for Capture One Pro, C-A-P-T-U-R-E, Pro, and say OK to that, it'll take you to Phase One's website. And under download right here, you can actually download the 30-day free trial of Capture One. Because I want you to have this on your computer so that you can actually work with this stuff. Does that make sense? And then if you decide that you want to buy it or whatever, you'll just see where we go from here. I am going to show you my workflow as far as shooting and capturing the studio work goes. So I'd really quickly like to ask you guys here, because again, some of the guys here are interested in fashion, but others are not. How are your lighting skills? Are you confident in your lighting skills? Like just, you know how to light any situation, you just go in, you're comfortable, you feel good about it, you know all the tools, you know if you've got something that's too contrasty, how to flatten it out, if it's not contrasty enough, how to, you know all those things, right? Yeah, nobody does. We're gonna actually explore some of that to the extent that we can. Yeah, I'm just going to leave it at that. So at any rate, if you could do me a favor, download this. You can go ahead and activate it. Because it won't last you until the end of the semester. We are going to run out of that time. But anything that we need to do beyond that, we will figure out a way. We'll either do it as a group or in teams, or we'll do something. We'll figure out some way to make this whole part work. Are you okay with that? Other things, really quickly. How many of you guys... So they have cameras here. If you want to use the cameras that we have here, that's perfectly fine. If you want to bring your own camera. So for instance, today, we haven't actually shot any of these cards on your camera. So the profiling process we're going to do with one of my files. So you're all going to do the exact same file as me, whatever. But you can take this exact same idea, shoot a picture with your own camera, profile your own sensor, and use this for the rest of your life, or as long as you have that camera. I'm telling you this right now, it'll change everything. So I just wanted to say, I have no problem with you wanting to work with your own gear, as long as your gear is sort of like up to being able to actually do this stuff we're doing. I'm all about shooting with iPhones, but that's probably not going to cut it for a lot of what we do here. Are we good on this? Okay. All right, well then that being said, if you look in the assignment folder for today, actually it's going to be for our next session. Guys, I'm going to completely butcher this, I'll just tell you that right now. I'm going to be talking about next week all the time. It really means the next time we get together, which is like, I feel like I'm going to go home, eat dinner, go to bed, and get up and see you guys all over again. But I love that, because I love each and every one of you. No more, no less. Yeah, okay. So like I said, we're going to jump a little bit ahead. I need you to go to our Class 2 files, not the ones for Class 1. And inside the Class 2 files, there's a couple of things. There's 2 software programs in here that I'm going to actually ask you both to use. The reason I've got 2 different ones in here, one of them was made by, it's one program that was made by Adobe. It's the one that Adobe still uses. However, it's a program that's been in beta for years. It hasn't really been updated. Whereas the other one is done by X-Rite, the people who do all the color checker work, all the monitor calibrators, all that kind of stuff. That's all done by X-Rite now. There are other players, but X-Rite is the 800-pound gorilla in the room for sure. Anyway, there's 2 programs. So the one is this one right here, DNG Profile Editor. That's the Adobe one. You can copy that directly. You don't have, so let me tell you. You can run it from your desktop, I think. I don't think you have to actually put it in. If you don't like it and you don't want to work with it, you don't want to keep it, you can throw it away. And I swear, the virus that I had on my hard drive has only infected you guys to a certain level. All I'm going to do is steal your passwords and you know, the childhood pictures of, you know, your kitten. And other than that, you have nothing. No, I'm just kidding. I don't want to junk up your computer, but nonetheless, these are the 2. So it's this one right here, the DNG Profile Editor, and this one right here, the Color Passport Checker. I'm going to actually ask you to launch the Color Passport Checker first and see if it actually loads. You might get a warning saying, do you want to update this guy? If you get that, don't update it for today, because again, I'm trying to make this as expedient as I can, or as quick as I can. Yes?
Mine's grayed out.
If No, we'll take a look. Oh, it is grayed out. You have got that grayed out, I think, because of the way you got your computer locked. So if you double click on it, it won't even launch, right? None of that will launch. Okay, so actually cancel out of that. Go back to that same spot. No, we're not opening it in Photoshop. That's okay. Come out and find it. Assignments. And we do. And you're good to go. So do the passport color checker first. You'll see that we get all of these warning messages about calibration, all that kind of stuff. Those all should be heeded, but we don't have to deal with any of that right now. So I'm simply going to say okay to this. It does say that there is a new version of that for me. I'm going to just say remind me later. Again, if you guys find that this is something you really want to work with, I would suggest that you upgrade to the latest, greatest. But we're going to be able to go through all the steps here, and you'll see, and it will generate a really reasonably good profile. Because the software, this stuff is not that old. Are we good on that? Okay, so this thing is open and ready to go. There's another one, let's just see how it works. So the DNG Profile Editor, if you double click on that guy and open him as well, and mine opens as well, it looks a little bit different. In my experience in the past doing this over the last 4 or 5 years, there was a small period of time where one of these would work and the other one would not. They make slightly different profiles, but they do a world of help to get you where you sort of like need to be. So if you find that one of them is not working and the other one maybe is, again, whatever, I would update to the latest, greatest of all. Again, the Adobe one, which is this one right here, the DNG Profile Editor, hasn't been updated in ages. But anyway, it is what it is. Let me make sure I'm still recording this. Okay, good. Okay, so to start with, we are going to go up to the the folder that I asked you to get actually to go after before. No, I take it back. Let's not do that. Let's not do that. Let's go to the folder that says DNG Custom Profile Examples. Get ready to see some of my finest work. In my case, I've actually got a DNG file in here and a CR2. Do you guys have both? Or do you just have one? Just the CR2? Good, that's what I want you to have. I'm actually going to throw away the DNG profile guy, and I'm going to just do the CR2 one as well. So if you can double click on the CR2 file, it should take you into Camera Raw by default. Did that work for everyone? Or did it take you somewhere else weird? We good? Okay. So Both of these versions of software only work with DNGs. So how many people in this room work with DNGs? Why?
For archiving.
Okay.
I save a lot to the web, so having a DNG file is easy for camera raw. Or like batch saving for
Okay.
camera raw, it's really easy if you have DNGs.
Okay.
So that's
Are you embedding your raw file in the DNG?
No, I tend to just do a DNG.
Okay.
So converting from
We should have a conversation about that at some point later. But for the time being right now, I will say this. DNG promised a lot. Its delivery is questionable. So just be careful on that one. Again, we should talk about this in greater depth. But for our purposes, we need to create a DNG of this file in order to use that software. That all the software that we've got, both of those versions only function on DNG. So we need a DNG copy of it. And the simplest way to build one is to simply come in the lower left-hand corner right here and click on Save Image. And a dialog box will open up. And in the dialog box that opens up, if you haven't been here before, or you haven't changed anything here before, it should actually, everything should be set up for you the way you want it to be. Now, in this case, the destination, I'm going to do it in the same, I want it to be in the same location as where my file came from. So that I don't have my raw file here and then my DNG thing I just sent off to who knows where. Right? It just makes it simple to find it. Make sense? Then in terms of the extension down here, you can leave this as DNG. The format here in this drop-down menu right here, you have other options. You want to make sure digital negative is the one. I don't really worry about compatibility, camera raw, any of this kind of stuff. I don't really worry about any of that other stuff. And then you simply hit Save up at the top on the left or right-hand side. And you will see a little spinning wheel down here indicating that it has just built that DNG for you. You can do this with multiple files. You can do this with a whole group of files. If you want to build a whole set of these in one fell swoop, you can generate all your DNGs in one clip like that. So you would just open them all. At this stage of the game, you can simply hit cancel. It's done its work. If you go back to the folder that we were just in, you will see now that there should be a DNG file in there. Did that work for everyone? Okay, good. You now need to, I'm going to pull this guy to the side. If you can click on that color passport checker, not the DNG profile one, but the color passport checker, this guy right here, you can do a drag and drop. So let me get this out of the way. Of course. You can do a drag and drop, so simply take the G and G, not the CR2, and drop it onto the field right there. If that part doesn't work for you, you can come up to the File menu and come down to Add Image. Again, this is one of my pet peeves. Why is it Load Image in the screen here and Add Image up here? Sorry. If you are lucky, it'll actually map it out. And what you will see, if you looked at the, we haven't even looked at the image before, but what you will see on the image, there's a picture of a girl holding a card like this in that image. That's all that's going on here. And so the software goes in and analyzes the image and actually found the card. And then what it's done here is it's actually laid this grid out on the card. So this is the trick that is going to work, and this is how all profiling actually works. The color patches on this card are a very distinct, mathematical, scientifically pure color that is done by X-Rite. It's actually existed. It goes all the way back to a company called Macbeth. These things have been used in the cinema industry forever. And they've been used in any color scientist in the world will know this card right here. So it's this very specific color, and what it's doing is exactly this thing right here. We've got an image that has these colors in it. These colors exist right here. We're now going to measure those colors. So this software is going to measure the response of the camera that shot this picture, right? It's going to find out where the discrepancies are, which is this stage right here, and build a profile so that hopefully when I use that profile in this setup, I will actually get the correct values right here. Does that make sense? We good on that? So that's the trick, and that's what we're going to do. Before we say okay to this, do me a favor, go back.
I have a question.
Shoot, sorry.
Do you do it every time, every session?
Okay, so, no, it's a great question. It's a great question. So what we are dealing with right now is a bias of the sensor. However, the sensor has that bias pretty much in all lighting conditions, but lighting conditions has an impact on your sensor as well. So for me, what I do is that every time I've got a single lighting situation going, I build a new profile for it, even though I have hundreds of them for this same sensor, and they're pretty close, but they are not the same, especially if you get into weird lighting situations, like somebody was saying they shoot at night. There's a lot of sodium vapor at night that has a really weird impact on your sensor. So this would be a way to actually help mitigate all of that. So I do one but when I go into a photo studio, if I've got a lighting setup and that lighting setup stays up for 2 weeks, I do one sensor profile for that setup because nothing is fundamentally changing. If I bring out a different modifier, if I say like go from an umbrella to a big softbox or something like that, I will reprofile because the front of that screen is going to actually change the color of that light, and it's not just the color, it's the way my sensor responds to it. Okay? So, but you'll see how simple this is, and the software is for free. So. Anyway, all right, so, but back out on the screen, what I want you to do is I want you to make a copy of this file name, this guy that's right down here. So to do that, I simply click on it. If you hit the return key, it should select just the name for you. So you'll see it hasn't selected the CR2. And then Command-C, which will copy. If you can't remember Command-C, it's up to the edit menu down to copy. I just want to copy the name, because this is the problem that you can run into. You can build all these sensor profiles, but it wants to name them just after your camera. So you'll end up with 50 sensor profiles that are a Canon 5D Mark III. And if you have 2 of them, you have no idea which one it is, and it just won't help you at all, right? So again, that's why I'm doing this part right here. It's just easier for later in the game. So back into the color passport checker profile part, it realizes that it's actually marked this for me. If the software cannot find the target, you have to place the target. You have to place this grid on the passport checker yourself. To do that, it's these controls right here. If you pick the little plus with an arrow, you'll see you can click on this edge and you can actually move this guy around and you can adjust it. There's a magnifying glass. There's a hand that can move you around, all that kind of stuff. You'll just have to go looking for it and actually drag this grid out on it. But other than that, the software is usually pretty good about finding this stuff. So then you simply come down to here, and I'm going to click on Create Profile. And it's going to come up and it's going to say again, okay, well, what do you want to call this thing? Do you want to call it Canon EOS 1D Mark II? No, I don't want to call it that. I want to actually give it the name of my shooting so that I know a year from now, oh, that was the profile that you built for that shoot. It was, even though it's the same camera. Does that make sense, you guys? Okay, so to do that, and it's a little tricky on this one here, it's just the software's a little dicey when it comes to this. If you try to paste right in, actually in this case it worked, which is a good thing. So I just hit Command-V and it pasted it in. So does everybody have this name sitting in for their profile name? I have got a file number that's in here that you don't need. It's this file number, this 001 is actually the frame number. You don't need that. This is my shot number, and it's also the name of my shooting. Somebody remind me before we leave today, we need to talk about naming conventions in this class in a big way. How many people in this room have a naming convention for all of their work? You can tell the people who work a lot have that. So we're gonna get down to that. That's like a non-starter here. Okay, so at any rate, I'm gonna get rid of the frame number. I'm just gonna go back. I am going to leave the shot number in there, that 01 in there, because while I was shooting this up, this was actually available light outside, and the light fundamentally changed. It changed radically between the morning and the afternoon. So I could have a different profile for the very same day, and if I didn't have this shot number included in it, I wouldn't know which was gonna be for which. Does that make sense, everyone? In the drop-down menu right here, it should be able to find where these profiles need to go. Does yours say camera profiles right here? If you click on the drop-down menu, which you should do, and then put your phone out and take a picture of this, you will see where it is that this thing lives so that you can go find these profiles. Because these profiles, along with the Photoshop workspace that you made this morning, should go on your hard drive so that you can do this work on anybody's computer, not on yours alone. Make sense? Because again, the camera profile that we're going to build right now, you can go find it in this folder right here, copy it to your hard drive, and then let's say you want it to work on my computer. All you need to do is drop that profile into this very same folder, and it will be available to you in Lightroom and in Photoshop both. Make sense? Okay, I've got to put some weird name on the end of mine because I've got like 300 of these. So somebody give me a name. First class? I like the way you think. Okay. I'm just going to do FC, first class, although it won't let me put that in there. Son of a... Okay. And then just hit save.
Does it matter which of the passports you use? Like, I know there's a gray card in there, there's...
Yes, no, it does hugely, and we're going to actually dissect the anatomy of one of these, but I'll show it to you right now. On this color passport checker, you'll see there's two sides to it, and on one side it's got just a number of patches here. On the other side, it's actually got a series of color ones down on the bottom one, and then a series of sort of like off-color white ones in the top. These are all designed to do work in Photoshop. They're not what we're using here at all. In the older days, and you'll see this again in other files of mine that I use, there are other versions of this that are much larger, and they don't have this bottom part at all. Only thing you see is this. That's the only part that you'll actually work with. So it's always this part, and to sort of remember that, what you've got here, even though this is hard to believe, but you can sort of see it here. I'm going to go ahead and say okay, and I'll explain to what they are, although this is going to be a stretch, but I didn't design this shit. So, by definition, there's a grayscale here at the bottom, which we use to actually do color balance. This is red, green, and blue. This is cyan, magenta, and yellow. This is average African American skin. This is average Caucasian skin. This is sky blue. This is green grass. And I have no idea what the rest of them are. If you get the bigger cards, there's a little key on the back of them that describes all of that. But again, that seems really silly to me. But nonetheless, that's what they're supposed to be. But the labels are far less important than the ones the thing will do. Okay, so did that work for everybody? We good? Okay, I know the pressure's coming on me now because I'm knowing it's like, okay, Versa, you better come up with something. We need a little wow factor here, or the investment level is going to drop. Okay, you can quit this. It's done everything that we needed to do, so you can quit this one. We're going to do the same thing in the other one right now just because we have it. And again, I just want to make sure that you understand the difference in it. So if you can, go to the DNG Profile Editor. This is the other one. This is the Adobe's version of it. This is what they actually use to build their profiles. Now, when we talk about profiles, when you guys actually bring a file into Camera Raw, isn't there a place that says Profile? And you pick it, and usually everybody picks Adobe Standard, right? That was made using this software. Okay, so in this case right here, this is a little less intuitive and a little more confusing, but I'm going to show it to you anyway. In order to start with this one, we actually need to come up to the File menu, and you need to click on Open DNG Image. And then you need to navigate to that folder that we were just in, where that DNG is actually sitting. And you need to click on that DNG to open it. So again, wherever you put it, most of you guys have this in your class number 2 complete assignment files. That's where it ultimately got put. Find the DNG and go ahead and click on open. And it'll open up and you'll see a little screen right here of it. And that's all you get. So is everybody, are we good on this part? Okay, so here's the trick on this one. I'm going to drag the screen a little bit to the side. I'll just tell you how to do this. It'll save you a bunch of time. Go ahead and leave your screen small like it is right now. And if you look at the top under the editor, so we've got 2 windows that are open right now. I'm going to try to hide everybody else so that you can hopefully see. It's these 2 windows that are open right now. On the window that's got this untitled recipe at the top, you want to click on the tab that says Chart. And when that happens, it will actually put 4 little markers out on your image. And this is the reason I want you to start with it at a very low magnification, because otherwise these things get to be really, really difficult to put into place. we need to put them in place before we zoom in to really make sure we get them correctly. So to do that, click on the brown patch and drag it on just on top of the target, the turquoise one, the black one, and the white one. Just get them in close. They don't need to be exact. And then once they're in close like this, you can click on the little drop-down menu. You can either click on the little plus button here or the drop-down menu and go to, let's try 100% and see where we're at. I'm actually going to make my window a little bit larger. 100% seems still a little bit small to me, so I'm going to go to 200% on this. And I feel better about that. I feel like I can get to these colors a little bit better from this vantage point. If you bring your cursor into the middle of your screen and hold down the space bar, you'll get a hand that'll allow you to move this around a little bit so that you can find the markers. But in my case now, I can see my image is relatively big in here, and I've got my markers. You want to click on the brown, and you want to bring it into the very middle of the brown patch. The turquoise goes into the very middle of the turquoise patch, the black into the very middle of the black patch, and then finally the white into the very middle of the white patch. Now this thing is actually ready to generate, so are we all good?
So the white one has to be the last.
Say what?
The white, it has to be in order.
Yeah, it has to be in this order. So you can move them around if they're upside down or got moved around, whatever. It's just that they need to be in their respective colors. Okay, back over then to the other screen that has chart on it, the tab. You've got a drop-down table here. And in the drop-down table, you have an option of picking specific color temperatures or an average of both. And this goes to, Jenny, this goes a little bit to your question as well. They're so sensitive to understanding the different light sources here that they even give you an option to change. They don't give you, it's not like hyper-specific, but it will skew the profile one way or the other. So in my case, this was actually, we haven't talked about degrees Kelvin here. Do you guys have any idea what degrees Kelvin really are? Color temperature? Can we talk about color temperature at all? So color temperature has to do, hold that thought, I'm just going to tell you this really quickly, and we'll take a quick look at color temperature so that you guys are aware of what's going on here. Basically, it works out this way. This lower color temperature, this 2,850 degrees Kelvin, is roughly the color of an incandescent light, old school, not LED, but old school, warm, soft white light that we all grew up and know about, right? You guys grew up with a light bulb, no? Have I really lost you this badly? What's that? You know, that's basically 2,800 degrees Kelvin. 6,500 degrees Kelvin is considered, or what we would consider to be a neutral daylight. It's not a really warm daylight, which you can get at sunset. It's not a really cold one, which you can get at the top of Mount Everest, if you can get up there. Make sense? All right, so I do know that this was done in daylight, so I am going to pick this 6,500 degrees Kelvin only, and then I'm going to click on Create Color Table. And in this case, a message comes up and it says, my color table was created successfully, and you can see on the side right here, there's a series of patches that have got two colors in them. These are the befores and afters. These are the uncorrected and the corrected. Do you guys see any difference? Yeah, but you've still got a difference in colors right here. You don't need any of those guys up there. Don't worry about that part. It's just the difference in the colors. Look at the difference in those browns. Look at the difference down here in the purples and the lavenders. I mean, that's a problem. Those colors are wrong. My camera is capturing those colors, those sensors, wrong. And that's your start-off point? That's your jumping-off point. I got a really fucked up color, and here we go. Oh, then I can spend, let's see, hours trying to fix that. I do it in a click. I don't fuck with any of this anymore. That has to be liberating.
But it's almost impossible to do it with films.
Film is far more difficult. We had this discussion earlier. Transparency film is far easier to do it with because you've already got positive color. You've got your colors essentially burned in. With negative color, it's hugely problematic because negative color is up to interpretation. But digital is the same. What we are trying to do right now is lock down color so that it's not our interpretation. Does that sort of make sense? You'll see what happens. It's a twofold process, but you'll see what happens, and then we will stop and talk about questions.
I mean, just when you have like a day outside that you're shooting all day at the same conditions,
Right.
kind of.
Right.
But when you're not on a set and you're just going to photograph outside,
Right.
it's very problematic to do it. That's what I'm saying.
Well, I don't know about that.
Like every time you want to take, I don't know, a snapshot,
Right.
like, hold it, it's.
I know people who use this whole system for their phones.
Can you do that though? Like,
Oh,
you
yeah.
can buy like the same profile that you'd be getting from like your phone sensor and apply it to like a phone.
Totally you can. If you run your phone through anything like Lightroom, Camera Raw, anything. If you're using iPhoto, you run your own, or Photos, or whatever the hell they call it.
But you can translate that profile to like a color negative.
Here's the thing. It is sensor specific, or it is, in your case, it's going to be scanner specific. So you can do one for an Imicon scanner, but it's not the one for the Imicon scanner right next to it. It's the one for that Imicon scanner only. But what we're trying to remove now is it's not so much about the medium as much as it's about whatever's capturing this. So if it's the sensor in your camera or if it's the sensor in a scanner, they both have bias, and what we're trying to do is eliminate that bias. Because it's not just about color. This has got nothing to do with color balancing. Color balancing is separate. This has got to do with the fact, well, you'll see what happens. I'm getting a little ahead of myself. But you'll see in this case, because I know what this camera is hypersensitive to blue. It takes on, it reads, the output that it gives thinks that there's more blue there than should actually be there. And that's not a color imbalance. That is a bias of the sensor that I've got to try to get rid of. Make sense? Okay. So with this color table built as it is right now, come up to the File menu, come down to, we do not want to save recipes. What recipes are is the work we've done to get to this thing right here. Now, Photoshop actually goes in and continues to tweak these things. You'll see that there's other tabs up along here that allow you to put a tone curve on here, to do all sorts of other weird shit. In my opinion, that defeats the whole purpose of what we're doing here. But I'm just saying, so if you wanted to save this setup right here, that's what a recipe is. I never save recipes. I want to export this profile. The profile is the only thing I care about. Are we good on that? Okay, so we're going to click on Export Profile. And again, to show you how old this software is, try to hit Command V, try to paste on top of this. Again, the windows are so old in this, you can't do a paste on top of this. You can't do any of that part. If you hit the delete key, you can get rid of it, but then we need to try to get that file name back in because I want to know that it's for this shooting. So to do that, if you guys, it depends on how you work this. If you have a 2-button mouse, you click on your right mouse to get a drop-down menu on this. If you're like me, I'm a Control key guy, so I hold down the Control key and click, and I'll get a drop-down menu here. If you're a 2-finger swiper and you know how to get your drop-down menu, you know how to get the right-click menu, do your 2 fingers or whatever it is. But for me, if you simply hold down the Control key and click, you'll get a drop-down menu, and you get Paste as an option, and it will put that same number in. So I'm going to, again, get rid of the frame count on this. I am going back to FC for first class, but then I'm also going to call this DPE for Digital Profile Editor. I want to know the difference in the one that I built earlier and this one right here. So this is DPE on mine. You'll notice that it goes in the exact same spot. It's in this camera profile folder, and we can then click Save. And if you should get an exported successfully version of this, and you can say OK, and then you can quit this program as well. You do not need to save this guy. So did that work for everyone? Are we good on that part? All right, so then go back to that original file that we just had, the DNG, and you can throw the DNG away. It's done all its work. You don't need to keep it. We don't care about it anymore. We don't need it anymore. But I do want to see how well this thing will work. So I'm going to double-click on the CR2 file again, which will bring me into Camera Raw again, and I need you guys at least in this space. Now, I'm not certain about when this got flipped, but the first thing that you should see at the top of your screen right here is there is a treatment that's sitting up at the top, whether this is color or black and white, and right underneath it is Profile. Now, in some older versions, so does anybody not have profile right there? So it still exists, it's just in a different place. Click on the little camera icon, and then click in this. You're going to find it in here. So when you click on this drop down, that's where you're going to find yours. So I'm going to describe this to you guys. So the screen up here is going to be different. On the ones that don't see profile, there should be a little camera. You guys see the little camera? Click on the little camera, and then about a third of the way down the screen, you're going to see camera profile with a drop-down menu under it. Do you see that part? Okay, so is everybody good on this? All right, so in our case, it's a little bit easier for those guys, and the ones for us right now, they've built a lot of profiles into the recent versions of Photoshop. They're trying to compete, unfortunately, I think, with Instagram and filters, which seems really ridiculous to me, but anyway, don't get me started on Adobe. Where you need to go is you need to browse for profiles. So it's this little 4 square right over here. You can get to it in other places. If you do this drop-down menu right here, you can come down to Browse, or you can simply click on the little 4 square right here. When you do that, it will open up a really big thing right here, and you can actually come down, and if you come down sort of towards the very bottom, we're going through the original, these are a series of canned versions of profiles for Photoshop. What we're looking for is the one that says Profiles, and if you click on that drop-down menu, it should open up, and you should be able to find a thumbnail in here that has got all of the custom profiles that you guys have made. You guys all see that part? Okie dokie. So I'm going to ask you to find the one that we just made to actually get it. So again, I can't see mine right now. If you hover over the bottom, it will give you the whatever got truncated in this naming. It'll actually show it to you. So I'm going to go down. I think mine are probably down here at the bottom, but we'll see. Nope, 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 nope. Yep. I'm going to click on my first one. The one that I was marked was the FC. It wasn't the one I hadn't flagged any other way. And it's going to actually change this image. I want everybody to then zoom into this image a little bit. I want you to zoom into the card and to the sweater both. So the keyboard shortcut that I use to zoom in is the space bar and the command key, which is just to the left of it. It will temporarily give you the magnifying glass. If you add the option key to those two, it'll give you the negative magnifying glass. It lets you zoom in and out much faster. So with this one actually selected, so I went ahead and selected the profile that I wanted to use. I want you to scroll up to the very top, and then I simply want you to hover over Adobe Color. Don't click on it, just hover over it. And what it will show you, have to click on yours, so you're going to have to go back and forth between the two. So for those of you in the older version, you've got to pick the Adobe Color and then go back and forth. But I want you guys to look at what is happening to this sweater. When I don't hover over Adobe Color, this is the profile that I just made. When I hover over it, that is what Adobe thinks my color should be. Are those even remotely related? How the fuck can you do what you want to do and need to do what you need to do when the information that you are starting with is so perverted and bad? You can't. And if you're like me, if you're a fashion shooter where they really care about what color things are, you're just doomed, because this is not color correction. This is sensor bias. Does that make sense? So to continue about that whole, does everybody good on this part? Guys, this will fucking change your life. I'm telling you. This is another thing. Bar tricks forever. Hey, when was the last time you calibrated your camera sensor? What? Does that make sense what's going on here? Okay. So in talking about the difference, I want to show you the difference in when we talk about color correction. So first off, we're going to really pervert the color in this. If you look at the, so go ahead and leave the profile, the correct one set. Because again, what we're doing now is color correction, and that is completely separate from doing this sensor. The sensor bias part is, no matter what I choose to do with this color, I've removed the device independence of the sensor. The sensor got pulled out of the equation now. This is now unbiased color. Now I can make that color anything I want. I can make it really warm, really yellow, whatever, but it's still, that's my choice, it's unbiased. Does that sort of make sense? To do color correction though, the easiest way to do color correction, again, is to use the white balance tool that sits right up here. So it is the third tool over from the top. If you hover over it, you'll see it says the white balance tool. If you click on this white balance tool, and then you guys will love this, I want you to come down, see the little red patch that's sitting right in the middle right here? I want you to come down and click on that red patch, and it's going to actually try to do a color balance. And your image goes really blue, and all of a sudden, you're Craig McDean. Who in this room has ever heard of Craig McDean? Only one. Okay, we're going to do a little fashion history in here, and I'm hoping to do it in such a way that doesn't bore the people who have no interest in fashion at all, because there is just remarkable photography that exists out there. But at any rate, Craig McDean has got a very, very, very defined palette. It's not that he has nothing else, but this is actually one of them. And if you look at these skin tones, it's really symptomatic of the cyanic skin tones here. But you can clearly see in this image case right here that things are off, right? So how would you fix the color in this? This is what your image looks like. How do you fix this color?
Click right.
Why? So here, I'm going to show you what's happening. Hover over the red patch again. And look at your readouts underneath right here. We can't even get to a neutral color here because it's so far off, whatever. But you remember I said that what happens that if you have a neutral color in Photoshop, your RGB values are always the same. Whether it's a light color or dark color, they are all the same by definition. That is what neutral color is. So what the white color picker, the white point color picker does, what it's trying to do, is it's saying, okay, whatever you click on, I need to make that RGB values of that identical. So click on the patch that's right underneath that. First, hover over it. Don't click on it yet. Hover over it right here, and you can see I've got, and I'm reading my values under here under my histogram. It's an 80R, 195 green, and a 212 blue. Those are not the same tones at all. But if you click on this, look what happens. They all become the same, 196, and I am perfectly color balanced. So this little card built my profile to get rid of my sensor bias. I just use it to color balance my image. Now, this is perfectly neutral color. Some people like their stuff warmer. Some people like it cooler. I'm not arguing with that, but I am telling you that at this point of the game, we are at perfectly neutral color. Why would that matter in a class like this? Well, if you're not a person who likes your color warmer or cooler, whatever, then you've done it all. That's it. It's 2 clicks we've done. This is color balanced and sensor unbiased. If you are a person who likes it warmer or cooler, that's great. You can go ahead and warm this up or cool this off. But what happens if you're the person doing a composite? And you've got one image that's really warm and another image that's really cool, and you want to composite those two together. You're in a world of hurt. You're going to work on your warmer image and try to make it cooler, your cooler one and try to make it warmer. You're going to hate your life. You will never get the two to balance each other, and I would be able to spot that composite from across the room. But if you color neutralize both of them, put both of them together, and then skew your composite warmer or cooler, nobody in the world will know. Yes?
So this works for like if you're editing photos that are from both like a Nikon and a Canon.
All this, you eliminate all the differences between them, and you balance your color. And it's 2 clicks. Are we good on this? Okay, so there's people who say to me, well, first, I don't want to shoot that damn card and everything. I don't want to do that, so I want everybody to back out just a little bit. Again, I'm holding down spacebar command and option to get the negative, and I'm backing this guy out again. I want you to pervert color again. I'm simply clicking on a color balanced on her sweater. So you can see what it's trying to do is again, it's trying to get this red, green, and blue to be the same number, which is giving me this giant green cast on here. And let's say I don't have my card in here. Is there a neutral gray in this image? Possibly the road. Anybody see anything else? The tricky thing about metal is actually reflecting, and it's whatever it's reflecting, so no, I would avoid the metal. How about the license plate? License plate on the car. I'm going to zoom into that guy. We'll see how it goes. Boom! Is your color correction that easy? Do you guys struggle with that? And this is all from the guy who's scanning negatives. Because negative is a guess about color anyway. Is this working for the rest of you guys? So, final thing that we need to actually figure out in this whole process is this. So I am going to go back here and make sure, again, even though the license plate has gotten me pretty close, I actually am going to use the color target to go ahead and neutralize out. You see there wasn't a major shift in this. And I'm going to hover over this little guy right here. So remember, I don't know if I made you a promise. I told you I could get you perfect color, right? Well, I've just done that. But I also told you I could give you perfect exposure. Was that a promise I made? So, here's the trick to perfect exposure, and it all lies in this little thing right here. What is my scale from my scale from black to white? 0 to 255, right? So 255, so 0 is black, 255 is white. When we're talking about white, we're talking about page white, right? 255, you can't be white, it's got to be page white, it's got to be the piece of paper. Is there any detail on a piece of paper? No, there's the texture of the paper, but that essentially is gone. It's a spectral highlight, it's blown out, but there is no detail in that area, right? So where do you find real detail? The range you find your detail in is where you see highlight detail is anywhere from 245 to 250. That's where you pick up highlight detail. True detail. If you get above 250, that 250 to 255, you're sort of in a no man's land. By the time you hit 255, you have no detail there at all, I can promise you that. So in photographing this card, is this card real? Sure it is. I'm holding it in my hand. I can't have lost you guys this badly yet. It's only day one. This is real. It's a real thing, right? This patch, this little white patch here, should have detail in it if my exposure is proper. And if my exposure is proper, but it's white. So I don't want this card to be 120, 120, 128. That would make it middle gray. I need this card to be at my top end, but not blown out. 255 to 250 to 255 is going to be too hot, blown out. Detail falls between 245 and 250. What's the readout on my card? White patch. It's right here. Perfect exposure because of this. I go take a picture. Again, I shoot tethered. I bring this into software. I measure this color balance. I measure this patch. If it's 225, I know I'm underexposed. If it's 255, I know I'm overexposed. I adjust my exposure to get this thing to be between 245 and 250, and I don't think about exposure ever again. If you're in the studio, it's ridiculously simple. Does this make sense? Are we good on this part? Are there questions about this?
How much is it?
$80. There's a student discount. I think you can get it for 70.
Is there ever a reason to click on the other colors?
That is a great question. So this is what some of the other colors do, and I'll show you right here. So yeah, people actually do. The joke that I was making about Craig McDean and the color palette, I swear to God, there's people who do nothing but that, and it's just like, okay, that's exactly where I wanted to be. You see a ton of it. It's very popular color palette and fashion, whatever. Again, that's for me not really where I want to go on this, but the one thing I will show you that is the reason for these guys up in here. You can watch this happen on this skin tone. You can see it right here. So what happens is, I don't know if you guys can see it, the projector's not too bad. So you can sort of tell, this is supposed to be a person here, and this is supposed to be a mountain. Can you sort of see a blue tint in these patches right here? Does it look like a little bit of a blue tint? Well, yeah, you can do this on your own computer. So it's a little bit of a blue tint in here, and back in here it's a little bit of a red tint. what these are designed to do is actually push your white temperature in one direction or another. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the blue, and then again, to neutralize this, because it's a little bit cyanic, it pumps in yellow to counterbalance the cyan, and it warms up my image. So watch what happens, or you can just click on it yourself. You'll see, if you click on this guy right here, it makes everything warmer. Now in my case, I think the people one also makes everything redder. So I actually prefer the mountain one that's underneath. It makes it warmer, but a little less red. It's just a better one for me. So that's what they're about. The opposite end goes in the opposite direction. If you click on these, it makes everything slightly cooler. So, but it's nothing that you guys can't do as well, simply by taking the color temperature slider, and I like my stuff warm, or I like my stuff cold. Questions? Okay.
Do you actually get those every 2 years, or I think that's what they recommend?
I go through one a year. So something else you should know about this, again, this will tell this, everybody knows immediately whether you know what you're doing with these things or not. The color patches on here are sacred. Don't put your hand on it, because if you put your hand on it, then oil gets on it and the color changes, and then the whole process has been defeated. Right? So, and there are other tricks to this that I will show you when we get in the studio, because one of the things about this card that you'll see, and you can probably see it here, so for you guys over here, can you see glare on this card? No? Look at the edges. See any glare on the black edges? Yeah, you guys see the glare on the black edges here? That's converting the readout of these cards, because you're getting a direct reflection off of it. You're not getting a diffuse reflection off of these. So how you use them, actually, especially to determine exposure, is critical. But we'll get to that at another time. Really quickly, because we've got the time to do it, I think. Yeah. I need everybody to grab a tablet. Let's see which ones these guys. So they're tablets here. These are graphic tablets that we're going to actually use.
Just Mayumi wanted me to say that they cannot take it out of the school. This one.
Oh, okay. But those they can check out?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Let's see if we can let's see how many of those go around and see what software we really got. These are, the thing about these is this is a graphics tablet, but it's also an LED screen. So this actually shows you the image you work directly on the sky. This is not what most people in the world actually use. But for those of you who don't have a tablet, here, so use these guys. So here, grab one of these. I take that back, guys. Let's do this, because I feel like we're really rushing this whole process right now, and I don't really want to rush this process, because we've really only got about 25 minutes left, and I feel like I've beaten you up pretty good already. So I want to just look at, I'm sorry. I'm realizing that this is just, we should back off on this, because you are going to get these tablets next week, or we're going to get these next week, in 2 days. So this is where we'll begin in 2 days. I just think that just makes a little bit more sense. Because I want to show you one last thing, a couple of things, have a quick conversation, and then we're out of here. Is that okay? So sorry, I'm trying to get there. Clearly the time thing is A little tricky, but we didn't do too bad today. So yeah, just go ahead and wrap that up. Again, we'll start with this first thing on Wednesday. So this is what has happened so far in this class. We went through a number of things right here, but the thing that was critical to us today, the thing that you guys just did, was we built this profile right here. It is the thing that goes from your camera into either Lightroom, Capture One. Anybody in here use any other developers for their raw files? There's like 100 of them out there, and they all do slightly different things, and it's something that you guys should think about exploring, but nonetheless. So this is camera raw stage, this is what's going on right here. And if we had gone ahead and opened that file into Photoshop, this is where we would be. Does that make sense? So we've done the journey into this, and we should be sitting right here. Is it pretty good on that part? Does that help answer, Kevin, what you were asking? Does that make this a little bit clearer, what we're trying to do? Okay, so now that we're in this space, again, we will do this first thing on Wednesday morning. We are going to calibrate a monitor to take care of this process right here. And then finally, sort of more towards the end of what we do in this class, we'll actually profile printers so that you get the output here to actually work for you as well. Does that sort of make sense what we're doing here? And this is the foundation for color management. And you guys, right now, you guys have all the keys to this. And it's a game changer. Okay, so any questions about this at all? All right. One last thing to get through. Hopefully this will be a little bit more fun. Anybody ever heard of this guy? You can tell the real fashion geeks, and I say that affectionately because I am one as well. So, you're right. I'm all right. We're both all right. In 1976, I was in art school. I was in a place called the Center for Photographic Studies. And one of my instructors there was a guy from New York, and he had gone back to New York to visit family over the Christmas holidays, and he came back into town, and he said, "Richard, I've got something for you." And I was like, "What's that?" And he goes, "It's a Bloomingdale lingerie catalog." So I need everybody, get online really quickly right now. Just do me a quick Google search for Bloomingdale lingerie catalog. I'm going to do the same thing with you. And then once you get your results, I'm just come up to images and just click on the image tab up at the top and we'll see what it gives us. And this is basically what you would expect, isn't it? Right? Bloomingdale's lingerie catalog, right? Because you're thinking, oh, come on, Bloomingdale's, that's just one step above Kmart. Or maybe not. Maybe it's the same level. I don't know. You can close that up. Sorry to put you through that. So my friend comes home, and comes back to where we were, whatever, and he says, "I've got this present for you." And I said, "Great," and he gives it to me, and it's a Bloomingdale's lingerie catalog. And it was a catalog that had been published and run. It was one of the issues that was right around, it was either right before Christmas, right after Christmas, whatever. It ran in the New York Times, and it was stuffed into every single New York Times that was actually sold in the metropolitan New York area. And this is the catalog. This is part of it. We're going to move on to other things. This was actually the cover. Now, I apologize because you can see some of the bang up and wear on this. This is actually a real scan of the version of this catalog that I have, and this catalog is over 40 years old, so it's not in the best condition. But I want you to take a look at this, and I want you guys to think, because I want to, in the little time that we have left here, I want to talk about pictures. I want to talk about things like this. So with that in mind, I'm going to show you a keyboard end. Are you kidding me? So I put this in, this is the rear cover, just to actually point this part out right here. You can see the photo credit that runs along the side, photographed by Guy Bourdin. When was the last time you got a catalog or saw an advertisement that had a credit line in it? How many people in this room have ever heard of Victor Subneski? Victor Subneski was a fashion photographer here in Chicago, one of the most famous. He actually had a contract with Estee Lauder. He shot Estee Lauder for years, and he had a photo credit for every single Estee Lauder ad that he shot. You know what that's worth? Millions. I'm going to move out. This is actually to show you. These are now more. These are not scans. This would be more imagery that you would actually. These are pulled off of various different sites. It's really a cleaner version of it, and I just wanted to show you and go through some of this stuff. But what you're looking at right now, can you imagine? You guys just looked at the Bloomingdales catalog online. This is what they were doing when I saw this, and I was like stunned, and I was like, oh my God, I can actually make art and get paid as a commercial artist a whole lot of money for it. This sounds good to me. Helmut Newton. Anyone? Okay. Maybe when I throw out these names, because I'm going to show you like 10 or 12 of these people over the course of the next 6 weeks. But these are clearly names that you should be writing down, and you should be Google searching and looking at images about these people, because these are image makers of, you should be looking at the work, yes?
Will these not be on Canvas or anything?
It's interesting you say that. I haven't put this, but if you want to, I will put all the slideshows up on Canvas for you. Yeah, yeah, I can do that.
What was his name, Joseph?
Helmut Newton. Anyway, he and Guy Bourdin, just as a quick aside of what's going on right here, he and Guy Bourdin were both shooting for French Vogue throughout the 70s, and they really hit their stride in the mid-70s to the sort of mid-80s. That was really the pinnacle of when they were shooting for them, whatever. They had complete editorial, carte blanche editorially, and unlimited budgets. It was wild, insane, Wild West times, whatever. And both of them at this certain stage of the game got really obsessed with death, and so this is actually a few outtakes. Helmut Newton stays in that a little bit longer than Guy Bourdin did, but nonetheless. So photo history, how much of that does matter to you guys? Do you study photo history here a lot? Any echoes that you see in any of this work? Things that are making you, reminding you of other people? Guy Bourdin had a contract with Charles Jourdan shoes, high-end shoes, and he had this contract with him for it was forever. It seems like whatever. So everything you're going to see right now are shoe ads. That's how it ends. So the reason I brought up that earlier part, Ken Josephson, anyone? I studied here with Ken Josephson. Great photographer. Teacher. But, so I'm gonna stop at this point right now, there's only a few left on this, whatever. Where do you get your inspiration for your work? Do you just shoot? Just go out and, oh, I'm just gonna start taking pictures and, no, what do you do? What makes you think about what you wanna shoot? Reading, great source. Movies, film, all that kind of stuff, personal experience, things you see, all that kind of stuff, whatever. How about all the references that you know from history? Like this. I can promise you that he was aware of King Joseph's. So I'm just going to throw this out to you guys right now. And again, everybody treats this a little bit differently, but it was a quote line, it's a Picasso line, and it says, good artists borrow, great artists steal. I steal everything I possibly can. I don't want to invent anything again. I do it proudly and unabashedly, and I make a fortune doing it. So, I'm not saying that that's what you should do, but if you're not aware of your resources, if you're not aware of your history, if you're not aware of all the stuff that surrounds you, all the stuff that has made this the medium that it is, whatever, you're doomed to just invent it all over again. I would much rather start here and go to the next level like that than to try to spend years getting here. Just me. So this became one of the most famous images that came out of the entire period, and again, this is a shoe ad. So, what do you think? Anything? I like it.
I do like a lot of like really bleak, like sort of dystopian landscape stuff. So like it's inspiring to see like that being incorporated into like commercial, it's like a shoe ad.
Oh yeah, can you imagine? Yeah, I'm gonna pay you $20,000 for the usage rights for this, and you get to shoot the shit that you want to shoot. That would just be dreamy. That's what seduced me. Other people, what do you guys think? Any of this appeal to you? You hate it? You don't like it? It's sexist, it's misogynist, clear, it's violent?
Do you think something like this will work today? Like, will be able to work today?
Oh, that's a big question. And I don't have the answer to that. I wish I did. There was a time where it was simpler. So I'm going to give you guys the good side of it and the bad side of it. Again, I'm not going to beat this to death, but I've got you for 5 more minutes or 7 more minutes, whatever. It matters. It matters. All of it. Anyway, I hope you guys realize that part of it. I mean this for you. To the bitter end. It used to be in the days when I first started doing this, if you wanted to be a commercial shooter, you had to shoot transparency film. There was no exception to it. And the reason you had to do that is that a color was too interpretive. So you couldn't shoot negative film and then give somebody the negative film because then it was entirely up to them the way they interpreted color. So I don't know if any of you guys have actually been in a color darkroom to print color, but it's a guess. You start and it's a guess. And then you get a print and you look at it and you say, oh, is it too green or is it too blue or is it too red or whatever. You use these viewing filters to try to make a judgment call. You make an adjustment in the filtration, you do another print. And it's an iterative process like that. There's a lot of people who do digital that way, and I think that that's an abortion. I hate that idea. Do you know how many test prints I do for my final portfolio? None. I don't do any. I have my colors so locked down, I don't do any. But at any rate, in the old days when it was only film and it wasn't digital, there was no way to predict what colors should be unless you shot positive film. So color transparency film, you guys know what I'm talking about, right? Kodachrome slide, that kind of stuff. They're positives. And you are expected as a photographer to not only have the exposure perfect. Now, what do I mean by perfect exposure? Transparency film is a very fickle thing to shoot. My tolerance for exposure in transparency film was 1/10 of a stop. Not a third, not a half off. A half off and your film's unusable and you don't work again. But the really bite in the ass was you had to do color as well. And it meant you filtered everything. So, imagine this. We're going to shoot in the studio. It's not too bad. I have meters that can meter my color, so I know how to color filtrate all of my lights. All my gels, they're color filtrated and everything is perfect and I'm good to go, no problem. I use my meter. I am a Nazi when it comes to light meters. You guys will find that out about me, whatever, because they give you so much more information. They give it to you really fast. So that was me, and the discipline that comes out of shooting transparency film. But you go outside, and I always call it the Simpson cloudy day. It's the really white, billowy, fluffy clouds, and you have 15 shots that you've got to get done that day, and the clouds are just coming across the sun like crazy. Right? And so you have times where nothing is covering the sun, you've got direct light, and things tend to be warmer than the alternative. So the minute a cloud goes over, what happens is that the sunlight is killed, the primary direct, but the big blue sky becomes your light source. So your color shifts, and it shifts dramatically. So you've got one filter on your camera with one exposure for when the sun is when the sun is direct. But the minute the sun goes over, you have to refilter, you have to remeter color, you have to pull the filter off, you have to put the new filter on for the color correction, but then filters have density to them. So you not only have to redo your exposure for the loss of light because the sun just got knocked out, but you also have to take into account the filter factor of your filters. And all of this has to be calculated on the fly because in the time I just told you that, the cloud has now come back away and it's opened back up to bright sun again. There was 400 people in the United States, and I'm being optimistic about that. Realistically, somewhere between 300 and 400 people that could do that every single day, day in and day out, and I was one of them. And I got paid in abs. I already told you this. I got paid a lot of money to do that. And that was that reality because it was so difficult to do. Digital comes along. Does anybody here ever even own a filter? No. There'd be no reason to do it because you do all your filtering in post. None of that exists. It doesn't matter. So that's the shift, and that's the fundamental shift about what has happened to the commercial community. So where there were 300 or 400 people who could do it, there's now 300,000 or 400,000 who can do it. And that's what you guys are up against. But I have faith in you. I think that I do believe this game can be played well. I do believe the pendulum always swings the other way. Good times, bad times will be good times again, whatever. But back to this, just to finish really quickly, and I don't mean just this image, I mean everything that I just showed you guys here. Are there any thoughts or feelings about this? Other than what little I've heard. If this was my work and this was my final critique, what would you tell me?
I think this is why I asked if it will work today.
Yeah.
I mean, like the content of the image
Yes.
will work today in the, I don't know, fashion film or, I don't know.
I think that's a great question. And what would you say to me if I thought that I was going to actually use this as my portfolio and try to go out into the fashion world today? Would you think I had a chance? Would you discourage me?
I think 99% will think that you're crazy.
Yeah.
And maybe 1% will give you the shot. That's my feeling.
And I think you're probably right. And I'm not even sure that 1%, boy, it's going to take some work to find that 1%, right? Yeah, absolutely. Do you think that your future is only going to be shooting the Bloomingdales Catalog, lingerie catalog that you Google? Do you think that that's your life? God, I hope not. You know? This for me anyway, for however you feel about it, again, I already told you guys, this fundamentally changed me. And so I have this place in my heart for this. That doesn't mean that I'm not trying to sell this to you guys. I'm not trying to say I think you should like this, or I'm not trying to say that anyhow. I'm going to try to show you as much across the board work as I possibly can in the next however many weeks we're together. Because again, I do think that your history is critically important. I do think that that part really has an impact on what you ultimately shoot, the way you ultimately decide to shoot it, the things that you might think about doing, the freedom that you might think that you have. I think you think as a fine artist you have all the freedom in the world and you can do whatever you want. Is that the case? Are you limited? Jenny, what are you limited by? What do you feel like you're limited by?
In fine art?
Yeah.
Even, for example, the theme that I want to talk about,
Mhm.
if it's relevant for now or not,
Sure.
the way I photograph, the competition between, there's a lot of artists.
Yeah. Do you guys feel that same? On some level? I'm trying to end this on a really happy high note, and I feel like, my God, I just really brought everybody way down. And I don't want that to be the case at all. I also, so it's the last thing I'll say to you, and then I want to look at the assignments really quickly. Literally, I know some of you are saying right now, oh my God, this is so much. I don't know if I can take this. I don't know if I can do 6 weeks of this. It's not this intense for all 6. Well, it's intense, but it's not. It starts to progress a little out of the theory realm into the true hands-on realm, and we'll actually be working on files and doing that kind of stuff. So if you have reservations about where things are at right now, if you think that this is too much for you, I'm asking you, begging you, just to stick with this for a little bit. I think you'll be surprised at where it comes. I haven't lost anybody completely yet. Are we okay on that part? Okay, then for really quick, I'm just going to show you. You can see it as well. I used to have assignments that are in the assignment folders. I don't do that anymore because they change too much. But if you take a look at our website really quickly. So to find assignments, they actually sit in the module page. So this is where you'll see them. They're not under any heading right here. They'll all be inside of this. This first one is basically just to introduce me to you, send me a picture. I try to put names together with faces as quick as I possibly can. It's just the fastest way to do it. It also encourages you to look at the other posts that are on there. Do you guys all know each other? I mean, you are all sort of a class or so sometimes everybody knows each other already, and so, but if not, then again, you get to find out and put names with faces as well. Do a quick little, this is who I am, this is what I do, a quick little response to somebody else, just to sort of get some sort of online community thing going here. That's all I'm asking here. Set up your system. Well, you're either going to set it up or you're not going to. I'm never going to know. So a lot of these things are non-graded. You'll see on here that this thing actually does have a 100-point assignment to it. That's just the grading scale of these. But a lot of this stuff, the reading stuff, there's no way I'm going to ever know if you read this stuff or not. So I would encourage you to try to do it if you can. Take a look through the course resources and the resources in System 1. That's where you'll see, again, the readings, the videos. There are videos about Capture One that are in the beginning. We're going to do a quick introduction to Capture One. Next time we're together, we'll get into it a little bit deeper. But realize that Capture One is a full-blown software program. I'm not going to teach you guys Capture One in this class, but I can teach you enough to fake it in a studio and to get by with shooting tethered. So, and that will at least be a really good start, and then you guys will know if you want to sort of continue on. Do please, and this is not, you don't need to, so this read Plastic Sleeves 1 and 2 and idea generation, whatever, I want you to get through that by next Monday, by a week from today. Because what's going to happen here, one of the things that we have not touched on that we've got to jump into pretty quickly here is your portfolio. And to deal with your portfolio, we need to deal with aspects of it that you may not have gotten into here at the Art Institute yet. So how many people do you in this class have any experience at all with branding? Like branding yourself, like figuring out who you are as an artist and how you pitch that to someone else. We need to go down that hole a little bit, okay? Because the truth of the matter is that if you can figure out who you want to be, the images that you want to make, then all the things get answered for you. You know the resources to look for inspiration. You know the images to make. You know what your book should look like. You know what kind of printing you should do. You know if your color palette should be really pale and washed out or really hyper-saturated, or you know all of those, because all of that is established with who you truly want to be as an artist, and that is your branding. So there's exercises that we're going to go through to actually establish that part. They say I can't leave this to the very end. The worst thing that I can do to you guys is get through, there's 18 sessions that we have. The worst thing I can do is to go through 12 of these dealing with Photoshop and then all of a sudden say, okay, quick, time to print. I need you thinking about the images that you should be making, want to be making, and that's not as random as you may think it is. It's really something that you can hone and refine and really focus, have a more focused approach. Does that sort of make sense? Okay, so at any rate, that's what these last two things are. And then again, there's the videos in there. The videos to watch, again, are intros to Capture One, primarily that. Are there any questions? So, see you guys on Wednesday.